Well, in the beginning, we see how that truck driver told about that person who ordered him to do everything. Now we see how that person has been killed by Marble Group, and now when Vecanzu arrives, he couldn't find anything, but he finally was able to find both men who decided to do all those evil things. Then he shoots one man in front of other man, and the other man becomes petrified. So he immediately tells the whole truth. On the other hand, we see that lady who is now working with June, and June is the main mastermind. We see Vikansu calling her and telling her now next number will be yours. Upon hearing that, she becomes petrified. Now Vikansu asks her that now the same thing is gonna happen. So if you don't want this to happen, you better tell the whole truth. Then she tells everything and she says, yes, I will support you. And upon hearing that, Vikanzu says, okay, that would be best for you. Then he hangs up. After that, we see how doctors are working together. And at a time, two members come and they say they are here to do some gas plan in the building. And when they were doing that, we see there was something suspicious behind it, and something suddenly happens and the whole building was set on fire. We don't know what happened to them, but I think that was done by Vikanzu. Then we see again Vecanzu, who hasn't killed both of the men, and now he's asking both of them to be on the right path. After that, we see Jun and Yang, who has now seen the whole building is on fire, and that building was from Marble Group. Now we know in the flashback scene how Vikanzo's father-in-law was telling him that I want to set on fire that factory. Now Vikanzo had done the same thing. After seeing that, now Han is quite angry, but Jun consoles him by telling him that it's alright. Now you need to stop it as much as you can. The next day we see Vikanzo, who is now known that Yan is a gay, so he is now pretending as a gay too. And then we see how Jun, who is now talking to our main lead, and our main lead talking to him with a lot of smile, makes him a little suspicious that she might have done the same thing. Then we see Vikanzu and our main heroine. Now they both are together and wondering what to do next. Then we see how the lady who is with Jun, now she's suspecting that person might be Vikanzu. But then as soon as she goes to meet him, she immediately realizes that person cannot be Vikanzu. While she was about to leave, she sees our main heroine Yan with a person, and now she suspects that person to be Vikanzu. At a time, Rini sees that my secretary's voice cannot be spoken because right now he has a sore throat. But we see how she had suspected him. Now we see all of them planning together and trying to know what exactly they should do next. But right now, they are unable to understand the whole truth because they are more than to it. Then we see again our main heroine Yuni, who is sitting on a chair and trying to ask another person for help, but he doesn't agree. And at that time, Yuni is trying to make him understand to leave his post because she wants to fight as a lawyer, but he doesn't listen. Then Vikanzu threatens him and he immediately decides to back down. Then we see Jun and Yun and how one person decides to vomit on him, and then we see how that person has cancer. And after that, we see a person, some goons had come to building to make a scene. Now they all are trying to do that because they want to make every one of them disappear. But at that time, Vikanzu teaches a lesson all of them. Then we see Monk, whose best friend is now in hospital. Then Monk, upon knowing from the doctor he has a cancer, but in reality, his friend's condition was this worse because of the pills he had taken. Now, doctor has already colluded with opponents. Then we see Monk, who is praying for his best friend, while we see Vikanzu and Vikanzu's whole team is now wondering what could have happened. But they all are sad upon hearing his condition. Then we see again Yunhee, who has now come back to that lawyer. She just wants him to back down and finally agrees to. Then we see again everyone who is now together because they all are trying best to make them understand. Then we see how Vikansu had taken all the money from that lawyer who had taken as a bribe. So he is left with nothing. On the other hand, we see Shinhi, who is now sitting with that woman who is quite cunning. Now she is suspicious of Vikansu because she had finally heard the voice of Vecanzu. Now she knows that Vecanzu was the person who called her that night, and he was the one who did everything. Now we see Vecanzu and Yuni together. Now they both are talking to each other and discussing how they would help each other and taking that gold especially. Then we see Vecanzu who is now saying that he will do his best. On the other hand, we see that lawyer whom Vicanzu had thrown near the river, and we see he didn't do anything to him. Then again, we see Vicanzu who is talking to Yunhee, and now they all are trying to make a best plan as they could. On the other hand, we see that woman lawyer, she is also doing her best to make Vicanzu concede. On the other hand, when Vicanzu and Yunhee were in the court, Vicanzu made a plan, and because of the lack of the evidence, Yunhee plans to black out. But the judge had already taken the money, so Yunhee immediately wakes up, and now they have no other option. But suddenly, power went off. Now we know this is also a big plan of Vicanzu. But judge, despite all of this, he still decides to listen the whole case. Now, Vicanzu had third plan. He immediately leaves some bees into the court. So upon seeing some bees, they all decide to run away. But judge doesn't move. So the bee immediately beats him. Upon making his face worse, judge decides to call off the date. Finally, Vicanzu's plan has been succeeded. Now we see they have gotten a little time. While we see the opponent people are not happy because the date has been delayed once more. Then we see Vicanzu who is now come to see his mother. Now he is trying to make her understand that you should reopen the case. And then we see after talking to her, he is on the bridge and remembers everything. After that, we see again two people who is also from investigation department is trying their best to find out who exactly is the person behind all of this. Then we see Vicanzu and Gigi, they both are drinking together, and now they all are sharing how they went through from souls. At a time while they were talking, Vicanzu tells Yinhee about the gold, but she doesn't believe and she thinks he's kidding. Then we see Vicanzu is now trying to check the thermometer so he'll be able to understand. But at a time, the investigation officer took it wrong and thought he was praying. Then we see again that truck man who has now come into the building. Now he tells everyone that there is gold behind this surface, and then everyone believes. After that, we see how June is now trying to make everyone understand his plan. Now he didn't reveal his identity, and because he doesn't want to do that, then we see how he hands over everything to Han because he trusts him and he is his brother. On the other hand, we see that lady who has gotten conceded again over and over from Vicanzu. Now she is disheartened. We see again Vicanzu and Yunhee. They both are now again together and trying to solve the mystery but are unable to do anything because they don't know what to do next. And now another date had arrived, and right now they are lacking the evidence. But judge who had already taken money is now eager. But at that time, Jinhee asked Vicanzu as a witness into the court because Vicanzu had already beaten up some goons. So he had come as a witnessing person to witness the truth. Then we see how he shows a mobile phone into the court and tells that everyone which was done by other people. Then we see how that person's wife has also come here, and now she reveals that his her husband isn't right. How do you like it? If you like it, please do like, share, and comment.